Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. I'm Lena and I'm so glad to be sitting down with you today. I hope you are up for catching up about knitting and life in general. If you are, please hang out with me for the next hour or so. Thank you for coming back. If you are a returning viewer, I was not able to tape last week. You know, summer. That's all I'll say about that. Summer is so hectic and unpredictable often. So the weeks that I am not able to show up, just know that I am definitely wishing I were with you chit-chatting about our favorite thing in the world, knitting. So let's just get right to it. I have a lot to share with you, lots of new things, lots of old things. So let's get right to it. The first thing that I have not shown you in so long, I mean, probably since May, is the Garter Glide Tee by James N. Watts. I am done with the body of this piece. So if you don't recall or you're new here, this piece is knit flat. So you knit the front and the back separately. You also, an unusual thing about this piece is that it is knit vertically. So you are really doing garter stitch the whole time. So you first knit the panel in the front. In the sample that he knit up, he color blocked this piece. I decided not to do that. The only reason I have this stripe of color block is because I was getting worried that I wouldn't have enough yarn to do the entire thing in one color. Even though that was my wish, I was worried I was going to run out, and I was thinking I'd rather have an intentional looking stripe in the middle than run out of yarn and halfway through the back or something like that. So anyway, this piece is knit this way. So you start with this small sleeve, you increase, you shape, and then you finish off the front panel, and then you go on to the back. Where to begin with this piece? I started off really strong with this piece. I really was enjoying it. I love this fiber. This is Farmer's Daughter fiber. It's a single base, single ply yarn. It's the Foxy Lady base, I believe. It's a silk merino wool blend. And as you can see, this colorway is just gorgeous. This is Meet Me in Atlantic City. Gorgeous colors in here. It's just so pretty, and I'm not usually drawn to any sort of blue green kind of colors, but I really loved these colors. So at the beginning I was enjoying the process. I love garter stitch. I have to say, by the time I was done with the first panel, the front panel, I felt pretty over it. I had to drag myself kicking and screaming, so to speak, to start the back panel. I think it just started to feel like a real drag, because when you do something flat, when you knit a garment flat, you're not able to have that feeling of progress that we get in a top-down garment or even a bottom-up garment. You just have no idea if it's turning out well, if it's gonna fit well. You're just kind of going on blind faith. And although I did swatch and I felt very confident that it was gonna turn out, it just didn't feel like it had any forward momentum as a project. The other thing that I thought was challenging was when you knit flat, even if you're off just one row, you risk having an asymmetrical garment. So if I were off one row somewhere, it would be lopsided. And I was so worried about that the whole time that I found myself counting and recounting the rows to make sure they were the same. And even though I used stitch markers aggressively to mark the beginning of certain increased sections and the end of increased sections so that I would have a lot of guidance for myself, it just was one of those things that I found myself second guessing myself constantly. I think it's a miracle that I finished this garment. I really did not want to rip this all out and have just kind of a mess of beautiful yarn on my hands. I felt like it was one of those things that if I could just power through, I would finish, and I didn't rush myself. I definitely let myself put it aside for long periods of time and then come back to it so that I kind of, I suppose, spread the pain around. It never really picked up to finding like any knitting joy in it. And I hate saying this about this because it might not ring true for someone else knitting this garment. So I don't want to say there was anything wrong with the pattern or anything, because there wasn't. It's just how I felt. It's to the point where even though I finally seamed the garment, so after finishing the back, I don't think I touched it for another 3 weeks just to do the seaming, because I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. I finally did one side of the seaming a few weeks ago, and I found it to be really, really painful. I don't know why, but I think seaming garter stitch together is more difficult than seaming a stockinette, like just knit stitch together. It just turned out not to look very clean. It was just annoying and fussy. And I don't think I have found a way to seam things, mattress stitch them together that isn't hard on my body. Like I feel like I'm leaning over the piece, even though I'm standing up. It just creates a lot of tension in my neck, so I'm not comfortable. I don't think it looks good. I feel like this is a really negative start to this podcast today, but I just have to be truthful with you guys because I do feel like it's very pretty at the end of it all, but it's still, I'm not over the moon about it. I haven't even wet blocked it. I've tried it on one time and it fit, but I wasn't ecstatic by the way it looked or anything. It just feels like kind of a mid project all the way through, and I'm sort of bummed about it because at least if the process isn't super fun, but the end product is stunning, it's, I guess, a win-win at the end of the day, or at least a lose-win. But so this still technically has, I have to knit the collar. So you were supposed to pick up stitches all the way around and knit the V. And my plan was to do it in this solid greenish color. However, when I tried it on, I actually liked the openness of the collar. And I feel like if I make a thick V, it's going to close it up a lot. And that's not a look I like at all. I like more open styles. And so I'm tempted to just leave it kind of like this raw edge kind of thing, since the sleeves are raw and the bottom is raw. But I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is wet block it first and see how it ends up and try to put it on. I've woven in all the ends, which I'm super happy I did. And it's so funny. I was thinking while I was mattress stitching the piece together that I think mattress stitching might be my least favorite thing I've ever found in knitting. And I'm one of those people that I don't mind even the boring parts. Like I don't mind weaving in ends. I don't mind gauge swatching. Things that typically can be annoying to people, I don't find too annoying. But this, I just don't think I will ever pick a garment that has to be seamed together again. I don't know. It was a huge pain. In fact, the only way this is actually done is I told my daughter, because I wanted to buy some new yarn for a new project that I will share with you shortly. And I told her, she was going to a sewing camp that she was doing this week. And I told her, I'm going to mattress stitch this piece together today. If I am not done with it by the time you get back, do not let me buy this new yarn. Like I literally held that out for myself and gave myself some accountability through her, because I felt like I would never do it if I didn't make that red line for myself. So I'm happy to say I stayed accountable and I did it. It was very worth it just to have it off my plate. But this is just not my favorite garment. And I have to say also, do you remember the heirloom quilt cardigan that I made? that is just a bunch of squares that are seamed together, and my friend Jessica seamed all those together for me. I don't think I fully appreciated the favor she did me, because after seaming a few of those together, I probably would still have a stack of 40 blocks sitting in my stash, because I don't think I would have ever done it. So God bless friends that will do the things for you that you don't want to do, because oh my goodness, I owe her one for doing that. So anyway, next time, I just couldn't get myself to even block this. I will block it and wear it, hopefully. I think I will leave it raw. We will see. I don't know. But that is the Garter Glide Tee by James N. Watt. I also wanted to show you the only other thing I've ever knit of his is the Earth and Air. I think it was called Earth and Air. Maybe it was just called Earth and Air, but it's a pullover, a brioche pullover, and it's so crazy. I felt the exact same way as I do about this sweater, which is why it is like this. It has no sleeves. It has no ends woven in. I got to the point where I was just like, I cannot stand the side of this anymore. And I just put it away and never thought about it again. And I thought it was just me being sick of brioche, because this is a fully brioche garment, and after a while that gets really old. And then I thought maybe it's this fluffy fiber, because this brown fiber is like one of those lovely floofy alpaca fibers, kind of like Melted Baby Surrey Alpaca by Ching Fiber, but this is Blue Sky Fibers. I forgot what this yarn is called. Like I said, it's been years this has been languishing. And then after I finished this second garment by him and had the exact same experience, I just thought maybe there are some designers we click with for some magical reason, and then there's others that we just don't. And I don't know why. He's obviously so talented. I'm obviously drawn to his aesthetic. It's very similar to Jessie May, which is, you know, more of a streamlined, clean, modern, not a lot of, you know, I don't know. I would just, it is not in the same category as, you know, traditional colorwork yokes or lace like Sari Nordland, that kind of aesthetic. He is very different. And I like that style, but there's just something, I don't know what it is. I really don't know. One of you had a fantastic idea when I shared this with you a long while ago, to just do the sleeves in a solid stockinette in this fluffy yarn, because I have plenty of it. And I actually think that's such a good idea. Maybe I'll do that before this coming winter, because it is so pretty. And I did kind of an ombre on the contrast color of a fingering weight yarn. So you see that beautiful, you know, background from afar, and it's so pretty. And I think it'll block out to be gorgeous. And it's soft like a kitten, you guys. It's kitten yarn. But I don't know. I have to figure something out, because otherwise it's going to be a vest, because it is, even this, like, picking it up to work on it just seems like a bridge too far. But anyway, I wonder if any of you have ever found that there's just some pieces where you're like, if this is what knitting feels like, I wouldn't be an obsessive knitter. Does that make sense? Like, I'm obsessed with knitting because it gives me joy and peace and excitement and challenge all in one. But if the way I felt while I was knitting these two garments, I would not be a knitter. We would not be here together today if this is the feeling. So I'm grateful that these are anomalies in my knitting life, because they truly, truly are, although I am going to share another one with you here shortly. So anyway, that is that for now. This is almost FO, so AFO. It'll be fully FO one way or another next week. I really think it's going to end up just getting blocked, and that's going to be called good enough for me, and I'm going to move on with my life. Okay, we're putting those aside. Now, let me show you. Last time I told you I was going to cast on another tank top. It's the Scout. Shh. I think it's, sorry. I think it's gonna thunder, or it looks like it might rain. And so she's big about weather. She likes to talk to the clouds and tell them what's up. So last time we were together, I wore this tank top called the As Friends tank top. I made it too short, and so I always use it as a layering piece. And I really love that tank top, and I wanted to try again. And, you know, I like to use patterns that are that kind of like very basic tank top kind of pattern, or anything that's more of a simple basic. I like to revisit them because, you know, we spend like anywhere from $5 to $12 on patterns, and there's no rule that you can't make them more than once. Just like, you know, we use our stash yarn, we can use our stash patterns. So I love this pattern. It's by Jessie Maed Designs, if I didn't say that already. And I told you last time, I believe, I was gonna make it in linen quill, and so I ended up casting it on. This is the colorway Dark Denim, and I'm telling you, you guys, if you haven't used linen quill, use linen quill. Give it a try. If you know me, you know that I love this yarn. It's so fantastic. But if you are tempted, there's like 50 colors available, but the most beautiful ones are the dark ones, because you can see the texture is incredible. Like, you can see these little wisps of linen, and it just is my favorite thing about this yarn, because I'm a big color person. And if I don't get to have color, I need a little texture or a little nuance. I do not like really flat, one-dimensional yarns. I think that is something I have found, that I like yarn, even if it's one color, to have a little bit of life that gives it some, I don't know, it just gives it some personality almost. So that is how I feel about this. In the colorway Dark Denim, it is so freaking fun to knit. I just love the way stockinette looks in this yarn. So what I did to address the length issue this time, because this is a bottom up tank top, which is why anytime something is bottom up, I find myself getting tripped up by length. I decided to do a provisional cast on. So I did it in the way that I love, which is with one of these knitting cords. There's a really simple method that gets your stitches all on there, and then when you're ready to put them back on your thing, you just stick the needle on the back and slide them on. It's about a trillion times easier than having it on scrap yarn and having to pick those stitches up one by one, which can be really painful because the stitches tend to just collapse and suck up that provisional cast on yarn, and it's just like you need like a needle to get into those stitches, and it is a huge pain. And when you've got 175 stitches or some more, it's just not fun. So that is what I did. That way I don't have to keep guesstimating my length, and I can, I think what I'm gonna do is about 9 inches, and then do all the front and back shaping, the bands, the neck, finish it. Then it'll be basically put the bottom stitches back on, and it'll be just like a top down. I can stop where I want to stop. So I'm very excited about that, because how much more of a versatile basic can you have than a tank top in dark denim? It's just something you can wear in the summer, and it's something you can layer in cooler months. And that is my dream piece. And one thing I love about this project, about any project like this, even more than socks, this is my on-the-go project, because even with socks, because I use magic loop, you're knitting across the stitches, and you have to flip them and move your cords. And even though it's not a big deal, it's just it's not something I can have a conversation and look at a person and do. Whereas this, I can definitely more and more look up and knit while I talk to someone. And I really like that. So while I do love having a sock on the needles, it's been really nice to have this project. Like, it's a little bit faster and easier, and because the needles aren't so itsy bitsy, it's just a very relaxed knit. Like in the evening when I have zero energy left, I can still knit on this, and that is what I have been doing. So I'm really happy with this. I love it. It's just, again, I have never knit something by Jessie Maed that I didn't love. And yet they're basic and simple, and they're not complicated, but they still have joy, which is part of the mystery. Like, why do some designers click with us when others don't? But that is that. So that is the As Friends tank. I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay, next is another work in progress that I have had on the needles for a minute, but we have not talked about it in a really long time. This was my Mother's Day cast on this year. It's the second year, so a very new tradition, but a tradition I absolutely love. It is having a shawl, casting a shawl on for myself for Mother's Day. I just got distracted in my own head for a sec because I forgot to grab a few skeins of yarn. So let me just pause and I'll be right back because I do want to show you all the yarns for this, okay? 1 second. Okay, I'm back. This is my Nightshift shawl by Andrea Mowry. I think it was a mere toddler when we last spoke of it, and now I would say it's about 20, a solid adult. I have loved every second of this shawl. I took this shawl to the mountains when we went and knit so much on it, and I just love it. It is the project that provides me my fix when I need a jolt of color and the color interplay. There's just nothing that hits that more for me than Spincycle. And this is just like my dream shawl for using for Spincycle. Let me just tell you the colors. Let me tell you first, when I bought so I had 3 skeins that I had bought when I was in Portland because I was going to make the Easy V by Caitlin Hunter. But then when I got home and I thought about it more, I thought that I didn't get the best colors. I thought that in retrospect, I should have gotten 3 that have less color variation. For instance, this is the colorway Deep Bump, and it's very much this beautiful light blue and this yellow, and that's it. Or this colorway. Sorry for the plasticky sounds. This is Salty Dog, and it's all, as you can see, like mustards and golds, really beautiful. Still has variation in it, but much subtler, these two. So these 2 would have been awesome, but I also had gotten some that were much more variegated. So for instance, Truth Bomb, a colorway that I adore. It has green and brown and yellow and orange and turquoise and navy and all like an explosion of colors. I didn't think that was going to actually work great in the Easy V because it is a very simple color work, but nonetheless it's color work. So I pivoted with that yarn and decided to get a few more skeins and cast on the Nightshift shawl as my Mother's Day project. Well, as I progressed, so here you can see I started with Ghost Ranch, which is my probably all-time favorite. If I were to have to pick one Spincycle, which is just rude, I don't know why I would ever have to do that, but it's one that I just adore. My entire traveler shawl is in Ghost Ranch, and I just love it. It's the most spectacular colorway. But so that's where I started in terms of background. And then I went into another colorway that I adore that was new to me, and that's Shades of Earth. It's these rich maroons, and it goes into like turquoise and almost like a purple. And then I transitioned into melancholia, which is these deep turquoises. And then when we were in the mountains, that's where I was. I had finished Shades of Earth, finished Ghost Ranch almost, finished Melancholia. And all I had left were these. And I just did not want to pivot from all those gorgeous, deep, moody background colors to really light, bright background colors. I just felt like that's not the look I was going for. I wanted it to look like the background was a very cohesive fade. And again, planning, y'all, sometimes planning doesn't go so well. And I felt really guilty because Spincycle is expensive yarn. It's just an obscenely expensive yarn. It is my true like indulgence when I buy it, because it's just, to me, there's nothing that compares to it. And so when we were up in the mountains, it was 4th of July, and I got an email that Hill Country Weavers, a shop in Austin, was having a sale. I think it was like 10 or 15% off. Not insane, but not nothing. And it included Spincycle. So then I just thought, here's the deal. I am not going to make a full Spincycle shawl again for a second. I really, really want this to turn out in the way that I really want it to turn out. And I am not someone who's super caught up in little mistakes in knitting. Like I'm not the kind of person that would make one small mistake or see something that's not perfect and rip back. Absolutely not. I will not do that. But color, like sub-ideal color choices will haunt me. And every time I pick up this shawl, it will bother me. So I just figured it's better to just get what I need and what I really want more aptly, and make it the way I want it to be. And because the Traveler shawl, I love it so much. However, I don't love the shape. It's very long rather than deep. And I'm someone who really likes a deep triangular shawl, or like a deep crescent shawl, like a lot of Stephen West. I love those. I don't love a thin, long shawl. It's just harder to style for me personally. So this is gonna be a dream shawl. So why not just go ahead and make it the way I want? And I know not one strand of Spincycle is going to go to waste in my life. I'm going to use every last strand, no matter what, at some point in some way. So buying more was not going to mean I wasn't going to use the ones I had. The only thing is I'm pivoting the light colors to be those foreground blips rather than the background. And you use a lot more of the background color than you do of the foreground color. Also, I remember seeing in her pattern notes that you require like basically all the yarn you get if you get 6 skeins. So I like a really big shawl. So I figure I'm gonna end up using a little bit more than the 6 skeins. So all that being said, it was very, very challenging to pick the next. I was gonna get 2 colors to finish out the shawl. And I found it really, really, really challenging to settle on the colors, because there are just so many beautiful, deep, moody colorways in Spincycle Dream State. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to go from the blues into like more purples or what. So instead of just recounting all the various color options, I will tell you what I did do. And it worked out so incredibly beautifully, because when I finished Melancholia, I decided to start Dream World, which is blues and greens and reds and purples. It's a very Whereas Melancholia is all kind of blue shades in various tones of blue. This went into more greens and purples and reds. And what blew my mind is that I was gonna try to show you, but I don't know if I can anymore. Basically, in the middle of a row, I changed the background color in the middle of the row because, again, I didn't want to waste a single scrap, so I was just gonna change it in the middle of the row. And the end of Melancholia and the beginning of Dream World were literally the same. It was a seamless transition. And if you know the joy of that, you know the joy of that. It was like the yarn gods were smiling upon me. It was pretty magical. This is where I am with Dream World. As you can see now, it's got red and green, and it's gonna go into more blues and purples. It's just a stunning colorway. You can see the various colors. I've got Salty Dog on top of it. My favorite foreground color by far was Truth Bomb. It was so fun to watch that work up against a dark background. If you can see like those neon blips against shades of earth was, absolutely gorgeous. So real quick, I don't want to belabor the Spincycle point, but I will go over my colors real quick. So at the beginning, the background color is Ghost Ranch. The foreground color is Love Spell, because it was something I had in my stash. This is what I have left of Love Spell. It's a very pastel. I thought it would be super random with Ghost Ranch, but I actually think it was gorgeous. It popped against the Ghost Ranch so beautifully. And then I moved into Deep Bump as the blip color. And then when I finished Ghost Ranch, it went into Shades of Earth. And then I transitioned to Truth Bomb as the blippy color. Then when I finished Shades of Earth, it transitioned perfectly at the end of that skein where the turquoise is. That's where I started Melancholia. And then when Melancholia was over, I did Dream World, which is what I showed you. And the final color, this was the hardest one to settle on because I got the feedback of my whole family, and we all decided that I needed to go back into like a deeper, moodier background color rather than a brighter, more purple toned color. And this is the colorway Opia, O-P-I-A. It's really deep, kind of grayish purples, and it goes into like a gorgeous red. I really, really like this colorway. Again, you just cannot go wrong, but this is such a unique color. I'm really excited to end with it. I don't know how big this shawl will end up being, but right now it doesn't feel big enough. I'm gonna need it to be a lot bigger. Maybe it'll grow a lot, but Spincycle doesn't tend to get too stretchy. I'm like, it's a yarn mess over here. I have so many ends and beginnings, and that's a problem for me later. Anyway, a fun project. It's one of those that I definitely pick up and put down with frequency. There'll be like a week or two where I don't touch it, but then I'll work on it a lot sometimes. So I think that is all I had to say about that. So, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been talking forever. I'm out of the talking practice. That all left me in a space where I felt like I loved all my projects. However, I felt like everything was a little too autopilot, a little too easy, a little too just pick up and mindlessly knit. And I wasn't getting that need of a little bit of a challenge met. So I decided I really wanted to do another summer knit, but something that would require a little more brain power. So I had 2 tank tops that I had narrowed it down to. One was Sari Nordland's Rosenland, I think that's how you say it. It's a really cute tank top that also, I really like it when she styled it as a vest over a dress. I'm going to put a picture of it so you can see. So it seemed versatile, like you could either wear it as a tank top alone or wear it over something in cooler weather. And I just thought it was beautiful. She's just so incredibly talented. You can't go wrong with the Sari Nordland pattern. And then the other one was this tank top that I came across somewhere, I think maybe Instagram. I had seen this designer and I had saved it. It's called the Maybe Lily tank by Camille K. I think she's a French designer, new to me. I've never knit anything by her. So that kind of became the tiebreaker between those two. Number one, Camille K. I had never knit, and I like to support different designers, and I've definitely knit Sari Nordland. I feel like she has so much name recognition and popularity that I thought it would be fun to try a new designer. Also, I did feel like in my own life, the Maybe Lily tank was a shape and style that I would wear more, just because it's open and it's more of a strappy tank top than the Rosenland. I don't tend to wear things, like I said, that are very closed up on the neck. I feel like I have very broad shoulders, and then it makes me just feel a little broad. And when I wear something V, I feel a little bit more lengthened in the torso. So I decided to cast that on. And because she made it in a sport weight cotton or linen blend or something, I have a ton of cotton yarn. Even though it's fingering weight, I tend to be a loose knitter, so I like to drop down a lot of times in fiber. Anyway, so I swatched. I used this really basic undyed cotton yarn that I had in my stash, and I did the little gauge swatch, and I had so much fun doing it. It's so beautiful. As you can see, it's really simple little lace eyelets, and then I don't know if you can see the texture really well, but there's these baubles that you can see, and it was a really fun swatch. I really liked how in the pattern she gave you the full gauge swatch chart, and that's your gauge swatch, and I really like that because it takes the guesswork out of, you know, just how big should the swatch be. It's like she gave you that, and I loved making it, and it was so pretty and delicate and cute. So anyway, then I decided, great, let me cast it on. Oh boy, you guys, the cast on it's a bottom up tank, which is fine. It's knit flat because then it has buttons. The cast on is an I-cord cast on in a way that I'd never done it before. So she has a video. It's in French, but I was able to follow. Y'all, it took me 3 or 4 days to do this cast on. It was so painful. And not only that, not only did it take forever, it was just really painful on my hand. And it was just a huge pain in the butt. So by the time I got to the body, I was already on the struggle bus with this thing. So I was thinking to myself, okay, that's done. Don't think about it anymore. Now's the fun part, right? Oh gosh, we have some housework. I just heard someone knock. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go let them in and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys. We are having so much work done on the outside of our house right now, so there's a lot of chaos. Anyway, back to this tank top. So the I-cord edge was a huge pain. And on top of that, what I absolutely hate about it is, again, I have that one elongated stitch. Even though I really did try to tighten up that I-cord cast on, but it was already so hard on my hands that I cannot make it any tighter. In retrospect, I could have dropped down in needle size, I guess. Maybe that would have helped. But even then, even if that cast on had been perfect, by the time I got to the body, I just found it to be a slog. It was one thing when this was this small swatch. It was fun because it was the baubles, you know, there were only 2 in each row rather than 20 or whatever it is. And I couldn't do it. Every time I picked it up, I found myself just dying to get to the end of the row. And then when I got to the end of the row, you were rewarded by a long purl row back. And I just realized if I am feeling like I have no desire to work on it and I'm only on row 6 or something, what am I going to feel like when I'm getting to the shaping and I'm still carrying the pattern through? I realized it just, as pretty as it was, I, number one, didn't think I was going to get a ton of wear out of it because it's not just a basic tank top. It's a very, memorable kind of lace pattern. And it just wasn't fun. And I knit because I love to knit. And if something is not bringing me joy, it just feels like, what is the point of this? And I already was just not feeling it. I also think I do not like to knit with cotton. At least this cotton. This is mercerized cotton. I don't know if there's other cottons out there that have more magic in them, but to me, animal fibers like wool and alpaca there's something about them. There's like spirit in that fiber that feels alive, and this just doesn't. It doesn't do it for me. I don't like the feel of it running through my fingers. I don't care. I mean, it gives you very crisp stitch definition, but it's not doing it for me. So I just decided, you know what? I don't need to knit this. And I feel guilty, just like if I buy a book and I don't read it and like I don't like it and I just don't find myself inspired to finish it, I feel really, really bad because it to me feels like a waste of money. That's how I feel with a pattern. If I don't knit that pattern, I feel like I just wasted $8 or $9. But you know what? She's a beautiful pattern designer. I might not love this pattern for myself to knit, but I'm glad that that small, tiny bit of money is supporting her creativity and her livelihood and her, being such contributing to this really vibrant knitting community that we have of makers. So I'm just going to think of it as that, and it's okay that I'm not going to knit it. But the only reason I haven't ripped this out is because I did want to show you guys. It's just like, this thing is long, and if you don't like the repeats, oh my gosh, it just felt, and I just started to feel like, is this the right size? It looks enormous to me. And anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to make it either way. So adorable. Like, look how cute that is. I just thought it was so pretty and delicate, but it just didn't do the magic for me. So that's going in the rip it out pile. So that still left me with what to knit. I will spare you all the inner workings and just jump right to what I decided to knit, which is back to Sorry Nordland. I decided to cast on the book club cardigan. So this piece came out sometime in the spring, maybe April or May, and I knew I wanted to knit it when she was putting out all the sneak peeks on Instagram. She didn't have the full thing out at that time, but just the cable pattern I thought was so beautiful. And then if you'd have been with me, books are as big of a love for me as knitting is. They go hand in hand, and I just couldn't resist a book club cardigan. It just felt perfect, even though I don't love book clubs at all because I'm a very selfish reader. I don't like reading something someone else tells me to read. I can't do it. If I don't love the book, I'm not going to be able to read it. So I definitely am not a book club person, but I am a book person. So I was just very excited. There's something about a cabled cardigan that is timeless, classic knitting, and I've always wanted one, and I've always been intimidated by one, by making them, that is. It's just an undertaking. It's a big project, and what I realized is this is a perfect time to start this because it's July, it's warm. To say it's warm is quite generous. It's just straight up hot most days. Right now it's actually gorgeous because it's very overcast and stormy. So I actually feel like it'd be perfect patio weather right now. But I decided this is the time, there's no rush. By the time I finish it, maybe the weather will be cool. And what I really like about this piece is it doesn't have just a really repetitive cable pattern. It looks like there's a good variety of things going on. So I don't think it'll get too boring. So I decided to go for it. I already had it in my library because I had bought it when she had a sale of some sort. So I bought it. It was already in my library. So then it was just a question of what yarn. Oh dear. Sorry. She has used a strand of sport weight with a strand of mohair. I knew I wasn't going to do that. It is not my favorite thing to do. I think it looks beautiful, but it's kind of fussy, especially with cables for me, because that strand of mohair is so easy to not pick up, and then it can just have like a loose mohair loop, and I don't like that at all. So I knew I wanted to just hold one strand of worsted. What I also knew is that, especially considering my Spincycle splurge, I did not want to spend $300 on yarn. Sometimes even the most basic feeling yarn can feel just so incredibly expensive if you're going in the small, like hand-dyed wool, small maker route, like Farmer's Daughter fiber or those kinds of yarns. They can be so expensive. And for a cardigan that I know I'm going to add length because I want it to be longer, that's thousands of yards, and it just gets so expensive. So I was determined to, at very beginning when I first saw this pattern, I wanted to use the, what is that brand? Not Sandusgarden, Durarum Natura. They have some beautiful non-superwash, really natural looking yarns, which is what I wanted to do with cables. I think it's really important not to use a superwash yarn because it can just cause the cables to really stretch and not have that like firm, bouncy look. I think if you want that look, you need to go with the non-superwash yarn. So like Malabrigo Rios is a really well-priced, beautiful, kind of mid-range yarn with gorgeous color selection and everything, but that's a really super wash, like very slippery kind of like this. If you can believe, if you've ever used Spincycle Dream State, it's actually a super wash yarn, but it feels very woolly. It doesn't have that kind of almost nylon-y texture that some superwash yarns have. Malabrigo Rios really does. So I was just kind of brainstorming what yarns might be better priced and non-superwash. And I remembered that Cascade 220 had a non-superwash and a superwash option. So my local yarn shop that's like right here has Cascade. So I went and I checked out the 220 and I couldn't believe how lovely this yarn was, you guys. I've used it before years ago and I felt like it was really scratchy at that time. Maybe it was just the colorway I bought, or maybe since then they've kind of tweaked that yarn. I find it to be absolutely lovely, like that perfect non-superwash that, yes, it is more rustic feeling, but not kind of scratchy. You know what I mean? And I fell in love with this colorway. This colorway that I picked is called Coppered Heather or something like that. I think it's Copper Heather. I don't know. I don't want to pull out this thing because I like it staying in the middle. It keeps my ball nice and neat. But as you can see, I hope you can see on your screen, it has so much nuance in this colorway. It's not flat, it's not one-dimensional. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of times solid colors can be just really flat and dull. This one just is so gorgeous and lively, and I fell in love. It was not hard to pick this color because it just was this instant love. And I wanted like a classic color because I want this cardigan to be just a very timeless, neutral, but not, I didn't want to go too dark because I wanted the cables and all the intricate moss stitch to be really visible, but then I didn't want to go gray. I feel like I have so many gray sweaters and cardigans that I've knit. So I felt like this was something really unique. It has like these red and green tones in it. I don't know, maybe you see something different, but it does have these unique blips of color spread through it that make for really interesting knitting and an interesting garment, but still neutral. So I am so excited. I got 5 skeins for $65, which is an incredible deal. And that is like exactly what I wanted, because if you knit as much as I do, and I know a lot of you are right there with me, your yarn budget gets out of control. So considering all this Spincycle, I really wanted to balance that out with, even though I want this to be a garment I love forever, so I want it to be good quality, I'm just glad I found a 100% wool yarn that I felt like was as beautiful and, soft as a higher priced non-superwash yarn. For instance, I've used Julie Aslin's Nurtured base. That base is so much more expensive. It comes in 50 gram skeins, I think, 50 gram skeins, and it is a lot pricier. Also, there was another one. What's the other one? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I just had it on the tip of my tongue, but there's another non-superwash base that was just so much more expensive. So anyway, I need to stop talking about this, but I'm really, really excited. I think especially the Cascade 220 heathered colors are gorgeous. They have like a peach heathered color that's really, really beautiful, just soft and nuanced colorway. So I swatched it on US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. I just did a little swatch, and it ended up being, the stitches are just too big. I need to go down. I was worried that using a US 6 would be too constricted, but actually it was fine. It's over there, but you don't need to see it. I still don't know what size I'm gonna make because I didn't hit gauge exactly, which I tend to not with Sari Nordland, but because I want a lot of positive ease, I don't think it really matters. So it's between an extra small and a small. I don't know which one I'll do. I haven't started it yet because I just haven't had time to sit down and cast it on and give it my attention, because I think the beginning is going to take a lot of focus because it is cabled. It has a lot going on. It's got moss stitch. It's exactly what I want right now, which is, a more, using more brain power, because that's what I'm craving right now. But I love these beautiful cables here, and then the bigger cable in the middle with the moss stitch in between. It's just really, really pretty. And as you can see, the swatch knit up, just the yarn is such a pretty color knit up. So that is what I'm knitting right now, or I'm going to knit. I'm really excited about it. I know there were a couple of knit-alongs for this book club cardigan. If you knit it, I would love to hear how it went, if you have any tips. I did read some of the project reviews, and there's lots in there about, the sleeves and just all the details, which I always find really helpful. So I've got some notes in there for myself to, little guideposts to make it hopefully fit just like I want, because I definitely want it to have ease, not only in the body, but also in the sleeves. So that is that. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I hope I have time this weekend. Well, I always have time. I just hope I have enough quiet time to myself to do it uninterrupted, because sometimes cable charts, they take me a little getting used to before I'm comfortable with them. I'm so curious what you guys are knitting. Are you the kind of person that likes to knit summer garments in the summer, or do you like to kind of get prepared for winter? I think there's enough time to do both, and I have been doing both, and I really enjoy it. I have truly missed heavier woolly knits, so I'm excited to jump into a winter knit, and maybe it'll call the cooler weather in a little sooner, because I feel like summer has been dragging on and on. I am over the warm weather, you guys. I'm ready for winter. Moving on to books real quick. This episode is getting long, so I'm not gonna talk too much, but I just finished a book called The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. I thought that was really good. I wouldn't give it like rave reviews, but I did enjoy it. I had bought it months ago on Libby when it was on sale for like $5. So I don't know that I would have bought it had it not been for that. I didn't think the narration was spectacular. I honestly think I would have enjoyed it more just reading the book plain. I just didn't love the narrators. There are two narrators. I also just felt like I wanted it to almost be a little more fleshed out. Like the inner life of the main characters felt a little sparse, and I felt like there was more there that wanted to be told. So a good read, not a great read, but an entertaining one nonetheless. Now I am reading Long Bright River by Liz Moore. I got it on the Libby. Yes, Libby. I was mixing Libro FM. I think the earlier when I said Libby, but I meant Libro FM. Long Bright River by Liz Moore. I got it on the Libby app, the library app, because I've heard so many good things about her new release, and I forgot what it's called. I think it's called A God in the Woods or something like that. But I was looking for something on the library app, so I was excited when Long Bright River. It is excellent. I'm having this feeling like I've read it before, but I cannot figure out if I have, because I can't find it in any of, I've always been like a Kindle reader, so I cannot find it in any of the apps I've used over the years, but I feel like some of it is so familiar, but the mystery, I don't know what the mystery is. Like the mystery doesn't feel familiar, but the storyline of the main character feels familiar. So anyway, regardless, it is so good. She is such an excellent writer. And I'm in this like mystery suspense era for myself right now. I think it's because I loved some of the shows we've watched this summer have been mystery suspense genre. And I've loved those so much that it's kind of pulled into my reading life, and I'm really loving it. So Liz Moore, yes, please. I cannot wait to dive more into her back catalog, and I can't wait to read her new release too. If you have any mystery suspense recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I would love nothing more than to get recommendations. I am just reading up a storm through audiobooks right now, and it's making me very happy. That is all for now, you guys. My voice is tired, and I feel like I've been talking forever at this point. Maybe because we talked about so many projects today, because we had a lot to catch up on. I just feel like you must be like, zip it, lady. We're done. So if you're still here, thank you for making it to the end. I hope your July is going beautifully, that knitting and life are treating you well. I cannot wait to see you again here, hopefully next week. I think we should be able to make it work next week for sure. So until then, be well, happy knitting, and I will see you soon.